Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow members of Engineers Ireland, distinguished guests and friends. You're all very welcome to the annual general meeting of Engineers Ireland here on the 31st of May in 22 Clyde Road, the home of Engineers Ireland. As per our bylaws, Section 9, the AGM shall be held once in each calendar year in accordance with the provisions of the Charter during the months of May or June. On a date and a place and time to be fixed by Council, and that date and place and time is now as fixed by Council. A copy of the annual report, the audited financial report and notice of the annual general meeting shall be issued to each member at least 14 days prior to such meeting, and that has been done to all members of Engineers Ireland electronically. The quorum for the annual general meeting shall be 30 corporate members, and we're well in excess of that, so we can continue. The last relates to an auditor, and we'll deal with that in a little while. So in starting then and in starting the annual general meeting, first of all, as is traditional at the AGM, I'm going to ask the members present to observe a minute's silence to remember the deceased members of the profession who have died during the past year. And in particular, I have unfortunately quite a large number of names to be remembered. John McCarthy, fellow who was elected at the AGM here a year ago and unfortunately passed away before our first council meeting. Professor Tom Brazel, a fellow from UCD School of Electrical and Mechanical Engineering. Willie Ellison, fellow. Joe Forrestal, fellow. William Guckian, fellow. Patrick or Paddy May, fellow, former council and executive board member and member of the MQB and Benevolent Fund, and also a hugely regular attender at the AGM and will be sorely missed in Cafe Clyde afterwards. Professor John Monaghan, fellow from mechanical engineering in Trinity College. Sean Mulcahy, fellow, one of the founding members of VMRA, Farming Mulcahy Riley Associates Consulting Engineer. Professor Garrett Scaife, a fellow also from TCD, and Professor David Wilcox, fellow from UCD Electrical Engineering. So I'd ask everybody here please to observe a minute's silence to remember these former members of Engineers Ireland, and indeed all of our former members who have passed away. Thank you for that, members. I also would like to remember and note a former member of staff of Engineers Ireland, Jimmy Kinahan, who would be well known, I think, to a large number of people here. Jimmy was the Cpd manager on the Engineers Ireland team, and unfortunately Jimmy passed away early this year. So again, our condolences obviously to his family and to all those, the very many people here who knew Jimmy and understood the huge contribution that he made to our institution. Before moving on to the first order of business, which are the minutes, I'd just like to note apologies received from PJ Rudden, from Mort Coleman and from Sean Lenihan. And with that, I believe copies of the minutes of the AGM from this time last year, Wednesday the 31st of May 2017, have been distributed. I'll give you a minute or so to read all 15 pages of the minutes, and if there are any matters arising, we'll take those before looking for a proposer and seconder. So I'll give you a minute to digest while I sip on my water. Okay, so I'll open to the floor if there are any amendments or corrections to the minutes. Everybody is happy with the minutes? Great. So could I look for a proposer? Mary, thank you. Mary Sharp, and a seconder. Donald Blair. So those in favour of accepting the minutes? Okay, duly accepted, thank you. So the minutes of the 2017 AGM are approved. Our next order of business then is the Auditor's report and financial statement for the calendar year 2017. And I'll call on our Director General, Caroline Spillane, to present the financial report and statement of accounts. Caroline.
Thank you, President. Good evening, everybody. And I suppose the first thing I'll say is it's great to see so many people here. I've been in the role now for a couple of years, and I haven't seen such a packed auditorium, so I think that's really very, very positive, and you're all very welcome. So the first matter I'm going to deal with this evening is the 2017 financial performance, and I'm joined by our auditors, Walter Bryan Harnett, and of course by the Finance Director, John Byrne. And either will be very happy to take any questions of any technical details that anybody would like to raise. So I suppose in terms of the financial performance, the first thing I want to do is just give an overview of the performance for 2017. So the first important thing to note is that our auditors, our external auditors, have given us a clean audit report. So for an organisation that, of course, as you know, is the absolute thing that you strive to achieve. So in terms of our income was 5.35 million, which is an increase of 4.5% on the same figure in 2016. Expenditure 4.83 million, which was an increase of almost 11% on the 2016 figure. We had capital investment to the tune of 210,000, which is a decrease on the previous year, and I'll go into that in more detail. Our cash reserves have for the first time just gone over the €5 million mark, which is a 12% increase on the previous year. And our operating surplus came in at just over €500,000, which was quite in excess of, I suppose, what we had put to council by way of a target. So that was a very positive outcome for us. The 2017 audit financial statements were approved by the council at its meeting, which took place on the 12th of May, and that's part of the process that we go through. At the very outset of the year, we have an approved budget by council, and then at the end of the year, of course, we report on that, and then when the external audit takes place, the council is advised of all of this and is asked for approval on the external audit. So looking at the balance sheet, fixed assets, there was a decrease in fixed assets, net current assets increased, and pension liability, there was a decrease in the level of liability for the organisation. When we look at the performance, I suppose, of our assets overall over a period of time, you can see that over 2013 to 2017 there's been an increase from 5.4 million in 2013 up to 8.8 in 2017. So just taking things in a little bit more detail, and I have some slides to present, graphs to present after this, looking at the income lines broken down by major line. Professional subscriptions, I suppose, is by far and away the largest income stream for the organisation. So as you can see, there was an increase in our professional subscriptions in 2017 up to 3.753 million, and that was an increase of 176,000 on the previous year. Our corporate partners, a very important part of the work that we do, and very important for us to engage and reach out to our corporate partners. We've had an active campaign in increasing the number of corporate partners that we work with, and that increased by 26,000 to 129,000. Cpd training is absolutely at the core of what we do in Engineers Ireland, and the net position on that was an increase of 96,000 from the 2016 figure up to 647,429. Cpd Accreditation, another very important activity within the organisation, slightly cyclical in nature in that organisations can be accredited for a period of time, and so that's reflected in these figures to a degree, but there's very strong interest in this programme in 2018 already. So that decreased slightly from 256,000 to 225,000. Steps to engineering, that's a balancing figure, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Accreditation of academic courses, again, a very important part of the work of Engineers Ireland. We have an obligation, we're the competent authority to go out and to accredit academic courses, programmes of engineering education in all of the higher education institutions. Again, this is cyclical in nature in that accreditation lasts for a number of years, so we can find that in some years we have a lot of accreditation activity, other years it's a little bit less, and again in 2018 we have a lot of activity which will be reflected in the financial aspect of what I present this time next year, but there was a decrease relative to 2016. Investment income, again, the organisation has made some decisions with regard to where it puts its reserves, and you can see the outcome there is just a marginal increase in the revenue we've derived from investment income. And then again in events and marketing, significant increase there relative to the budget. In the income from events and marketing, it went from 54,000 in 2016 to 88,000 in 2017. Consultancy and ancillary services, there's a number of different things that we're involved in. We're expecting to see this line of income decrease quite a bit from this year to next year, and the reason for that is that one of the big programs of work that we've been involved in, which is where we assist organisations in placement of engineers, that is there's no longer a business for that, because actually the economy is operating so effectively now. So we have introduced different types of services and offerings to, I suppose, to address some of the needs of our corporate partners now. And they would be things like our jobs desk, things like mentoring programs, and all of those things will be seen through in the income for next year, hopefully. So the bottom line picture is an increase of 232,000 in terms of income for 2017 versus 2016. So then looking at expenditure, so this is a people business, and our personnel costs have increased by 271,000 from 2016 to 2017, and there's quite a degree of detail in the report about the background to all of that. Our administration costs have gone up slightly as well by 54,000. Our occupancy costs, just a marginal increase by 8,000. Steps to engineering, as I said, that's a balancing figure. We get a grant in, and we spend the money. The grant comes mostly from Science Foundation Ireland. We've undertaken a number of different special projects in the organisation. The expenditure on that in 2017 was quite significant, 187,000. Marketing, PR and events, 224,000 was spent, and that was again an increase on the previous year by 67,000. Publications, pretty even level of expenditure in terms of publications. It's 24,000 in 2017, just marginal decrease on the previous year. Sectors and affiliations, there was an increase in the investment that we were making in our sectors from 110,000 up to 135,000, so that's an increase of almost 25,000. And then there's obviously always depreciation has to be factored in. So in terms of expenditure, the 2017 figure was 4.826 million, an increase on the previous year of 4.351. So I just wanted to show you a series of graphs, because all of one year is one thing comparing to another, but actually when you see it over the course of a number of years, it can become a little bit more meaningful. And I'll just highlight capital first and then go on to deal with that. So in terms of our capital investment, we have a sinking fund was approved by council in 2016, and that was to undertake the redevelopment of our website. So we spent a lot of 2017 working on scoping that out to make sure that, as with all IT projects, you have to get the scope right first. So there was expenditure of 75,000 on that. We've had a lot of work done on our IT systems, 45,000 on that. IT and AV additions, further 33,000. We've made quite a degree of investment in the premises. So you'll notice, of course, when you come in, the front 2 rooms in the house and the president's room as well. And we've been continuing that on, and we have plans to do more work in 22 Clyde Road. And then My CPD is the online CPD platform, and there was just some development work that needed to be done on that. So the total expenditure on capital last year was 210,000. So as I mentioned, there are a series of graphs here that look at things over the course of a 10-year time frame. So you can see our income has really almost come back to the level that it was pre-downturn. So in 2008 it was at 5.47 million, now back to 5.35 million in that period of time. But you know, it's reasonably steady. In terms of our professional subscriptions, as you can see, reasonably steady, but we are seeing a slight increase. And again, I think it's interesting to note the comparison with 2008. Our Cpd accreditation, again, it is almost back to the point it was in 2008, and there's been a very steady increase in that activity since 2013. In terms of other income, which is a variety of different things, that fluctuates, and as I said, that particular income stream that was very buoyant for us in 2013 and 14 is now tapering off, but we will be replacing that with other activities. Again, expenditure, that's the pattern over the last number of years. It's been reasonably steady. It hasn't gone up to the 08 figure, but again, you know, we're trending in that direction. Personnel expenditure, again, it's reasonably steady over the course of the last number of years. I don't need to tell this room that, you know, there is such a level of competition out there for talent now, and you know, as an organisation, we're seeing that it's quite a competitive marketplace. So investment in people, because it is a people business, is very important. Admin and occupancy, again, there's a fluctuation there, but reasonably steady. Other costs, we've kept them you know, in or around the 4.81, 4.74, and then an increase then in 2017. So operational surpluses, obviously always very important. There's been a concerted effort to ensure that we have a reserve, and as you can see in 2014, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, we've been making sure that we're putting money into our reserves by way of our operational surpluses. So as I had mentioned at the outset, 526,000 in 2017. I had mentioned about the STEPS expenditure. The STEPS programme is mostly all funded by Science Foundation Ireland, but we do have very kind funding that's provided by a number of other bodies, so this expenditure item appears in the financial statements, but it's effectively a balancing item. So in terms of capital investment, again, I had mentioned the projects that we have embarked on for the last couple of years. In 2016, that investment there was really in the building, in the physical building that is 22 Clyde Road. I have outlined what we spent in terms of capital investment in 2017, but as you can see, capital investment fluctuates depending on the types of projects that the organisation might become involved in. So reserves, as I said, there has been a policy of ensuring that the organisation has adequate reserves, and you can see the pattern of growing those reserves over a period of time. So in summary, we've received a clean audit report. Income is up, expenditure is also up, capital investment is down, but we have a solid plan for what we're investing in. That our cash reserves are at a very healthy level. We delivered a very good operating surplus, and the accounts were approved. And I'm happy to take any questions that anybody might have at this point.
Caroline. So I'll open it to the floor to members of Engineers Ireland. If there are any questions in relation to the accounts that have just been presented for the financial year to the end of 2017. Such a fantastic set of accounts that everybody is amazed. That's great. So could I call for a proposer for the adoption of the accounts? Brian, and second, Rogella, seeing as I'm still looking in that direction. And those in favour of adopting the accounts? That's carried, thank you. I'd like to thank our auditors, our external auditors, Walsh, O'Brien, Harnett. Under our bylaws, as part of the AGM, we appoint the auditor for the coming year under an agreement that has already been reached. That's done on a 3-year basis, and Walsh, O'Brien, Harnett are now 2 years into that 3-year term. So Walsh, O'Brien, Harnett will continue to be our auditors for the coming year, just to let the AGM be aware of that. So our next order of business, if I can, is not the annual report, but a motion to the floor from being put by myself as President on behalf of Council. And this again is a standard motion, namely that Council be authorised to determine the rates of annual subscription to be applied for the year 2019. So again, I'll open that motion to the floor if there are any comments. And if not, if I could seek a proposer for that motion. Cormac, Regina, seconder. Those in favour? Great. Okay. So we now move on to the, at least according to my notes, to the annual report and the President's review for the 2017-2018 session. As I said at the beginning, the annual report has been circulated electronically to all members. Hard copies are available. Hopefully you all have got a hard copy. And it contains my report to the AGM on behalf of Council. I'm going to take you through some of that highlights, and anything I leave out is already contained in the report. So it's one of the few speeches I can make without any pressure. On behalf of Council and Executive, first of all, I want to report back that we've had a really successful year. I've had a fantastic working relationship both with Council and Executive. We've got through a lot of work, adopted a lot of reviews and I think innovative practices. The major decisions that have been made by Council and Executive are outlined in the report, so I'm not going to go through that. But for example, one of the changes that we brought in at Council this year was to, both at Council and Executive, was to seek reports, verbal reports from the chairs of all of our significant committees to Council or Executive as befitted. So Membership Qualifications Board, the Board of Examiners, Finance Committee, all of our major committees this time reported back in and allowed Council and Executive to interact, to understand if there were difficulties or resources, and I think that has been very successful, and I hope that will continue under Peter's chair of Council and Executive. In doing that, we also separated Council and Executive business more fully, I think, and allowed Council more time to look at strategic issues and to debate those strategic issues in terms of where, as Council, we felt the organisation should be going. And again, I think that's been a very good initiative, and certainly we've had very stimulating discussion on a range of topics at Council. From a membership point of view, and of course we are a membership organisation, delighted to report that we had a membership of well over 25,000 at the end of 2017, and that membership number continues to grow, which is fantastic. We're also expanding in terms of the diversity of the members that we're attracting, seeing a lot of younger members coming from overseas, large number of European new European members, Brazilian members and so on, as Ireland's economy continues to grow and attract in engineers from outside. We're also seeing a very good outreach through the membership team into new organisations that are outside of the traditional engineering areas. The Thomond region have been extremely good in that regard in reaching out to the manufacturing and industrial engineering companies in the Midwest, and it's a model that we're trying to adapt and expand in other regions. This year we've awarded almost 400 registered professional titles, mainly chartered engineer titles, which is a great number, and again reflects first of all the growth in the engineering area, and secondly the respect and the requirement that people recognise for having a registered professional title, which is one of the key functions of Engineers Ireland. From a financial point of view, you've just heard the accounts very, very strong, continue to increase our reserves, and at the same time with council and executives imprimatur continuing to expand our capital investment very significantly. Very much looking forward to the launch of our new website later this year under Peter's presidency. We're promised that it's going to be all singing and all dancing, and so really looking forward to seeing that, which again will allow us a huge outreach to our members. Before I move off the financial side, I want to acknowledge the huge role that our recently departed chair of the Finance Committee, Mort Coleman, has played. Fantastic commitment that Mort has given to the Finance Committee as chair over very many years, and just very recently replaced by John Jordan, the new chair of Finance, and want to wish John the very best of luck in that role. And very much appreciate it. It's a hugely onerous and time-consuming task. Not trying to scare you, John, and really appreciate you taking that on. From a policy point of view, again, I want to acknowledge Bill Grimson, our president from 2 years ago, who made one of the central planks of his presidency to enhance our policy making role. And a year ago, we recruited a full-time policy officer, Richard Manton, who I was delighted to present with his chartered engineer pin and title last night at our conferring. And Richard has had a huge impact, along with all of the other members of staff, in driving on that policy role. It's a really important plank in our organisation. The State of Ireland reports this year, the Engineering 2018 report, and in conjunction with the Irish Academy of Engineering, we're working to develop a new Engineering to 2040 report, which I think is very exciting, very promising, and again, very happy to be working with the Academy in that medium to long-term area. Also, personally, I was involved as Engineers Ireland representative on the National Planning Framework Advisory Group. And again, we've been involved in that infrastructure space for a long time, lobbying, if you wish, for a recognition of the backlog in infrastructure that we have. And I'm very, very pleased to see the National Planning Framework and the associated National Capital Plan in Project Ireland 2040 launched together in February. And again, hopefully as we move forward, we're going to see a huge positive impact for the citizens of Ireland through that capital investment. In terms of media engagement, again, that infrastructure area in particular is one that's very important for leveraging our position, and in particular our position as the trusted voice of the engineering profession. I want to pay tribute to our marketing and comms area, Michelle and Anne-Marie up at the back, who have done a fantastic job in making in obtaining slots on national radio, television, regional and local radio, national newspapers and so on, for myself as President, for Caroline as Director General and other spokespeople, to allow us to express the views and the position of Engineers Ireland on a whole range of topics. So really appreciate that involvement, which is again key to this organisation. From my own point of view, as President, I was invited to make a large number of presentations to conferences, including the Housing Agency, TII, Transport Infrastructure Ireland, ITS Ireland, the British and Irish Chamber of Commerce, OLA's KPMG seminar on infrastructure investment and so on. And again, it's a great opportunity that our organisation is respected and that people are interested to hear what the views of the engineering profession are on these very key areas. So really enjoyed that, I have to say. From an Engineers Ireland point of view, again, a whole series of events, starting, I suppose, with my own presidential address in September, excuse me, on the topic of fusing transport, energy and technology, engineering and Irish Revolution, and looking both back from a historical point of view of the importance of the fusion of transport and energy, and then looking forward into the future at our new sources of energy, particularly renewable energy, nuclear and so on, new forms of fuel for transport, particularly electricity, autonomous vehicles and so on. So I certainly enjoyed putting it together, and happy to say I've got good reception at various regions and so on. Very interesting, on the back of the Irish Times business section today, the MD of Jaguar Land Rover talking about why they have moved to Shannon to develop a new research centre for electric vehicles and then autonomous vehicles, and again merges quite neatly with a lot of the points that I tried to bring out in the presidential address. Our Excellence Awards, again, fantastic ceremony in November. We had 13 awards in total. From my own point of view, I was delighted to present the President's Award to Mort Coleman, our Chair of Finance, who I've spoken about before, not only for his role within the organisation, but for a whole lifetime of contribution to the civil engineering profession, particularly in the area of bridges and harbours. But a whole series of absolutely fantastic projects across a range of areas. A really excellent excellence awards night. In January, we had the annual ball, over 850 attendees, fantastic social and networking night, and again brought off really well attended and well celebrated event. And then in April, we had the annual conference hosted by the Thomond region. Again, did a fantastic job. The theme was Engineering a Region, Infrastructure, Industry and Innovation. A great set of speakers from my own point, and again, looking at how to link out, how the region, and in this case Thomond, could reach out to the academic sector, to the industrial sectors and so on. So a really excellent conference. From my own part of that involves trying to drive towards regional rebalancing to try and understand how as a country we can have the West Coast and the South grow in a similar way to Dublin. I didn't realise that the first innovation that we would see would be the Thomond region recruiting / robbing Joey Carberry from Leinster in order to rebalance between East Coast and West Coast. So again, in all of those events, Anne-Marie Clark, who's here at the door, I really want to acknowledge Anne-Marie has done a fantastic job in organising all of those key events. Fantastic worker, and really appreciate all the work that you did in those, Anne-Marie. Our Engineers Week became Engineers Month. We've had a series of disastrous storms in March of this year, as many of you will know. We had snow and wet and wind and so on, so we expanded our Engineers Week into Engineers Month, and it was hugely successful. Over 800 events, many tens of thousands of contact with primary and post-primary students and their parents and their teachers. Fantastic work from the STEPS team, as we see every year. Again, from a historical point of view, we had a visit from the President of ICE, the Institution of Civil Engineers in the UK. They are celebrating their 200th anniversary this year, and we had a whole series of historical lectures co-hosted with the Republic of Ireland ICE branch, Cormac Bradley, who's a member of our executive, is the chair of the ROI branch and put a huge amount of work there. Probably the highlight was a lecture we had from a past president of the institution, Michael Phillips, on 19th century civil engineering heritage, with a huge attendance, and really great to look back at the historical aspects of the institution and of our engineers that preceded us. From a regional event point of view, I can certainly tell you that dinners are back. I attended more regional dinners than I expected to, so again a sign of the growth in the economy. And I have to say, fantastic set of dinners and conferrings and presidential addresses. The work that the regions do and the commitment of the chairs and the committee members in the regions and divisions and societies is really exemplary. And it's only, I know Dermot, who was our president last year, commented on the same. It's only when you go out and meet with the people who are out there that you realise just what dedication and hard work and commitment that so many people have to this institution. We had a lovely event last night at our last conferring in Clyde Road, with over 70 titles conferred. And again, a new initiative this year that I was delighted that Council supported me on was the reintroduction of Honorary Fellows of Engineers Ireland. It's a title that's provided under the bylaws, but one that had been used very, very sparingly for a number of years. So this year Council supported a proposal that we have 4 new Honorary Fellows, and we had conferring, as well as on our usual presidential invitations to fellow, we conferred an Honorary Fellow on Pat Hanratty, Senior Counsel, who served on our appeal board for over 18 years and was instrumental in revising our Code of Ethics and Disciplinary Procedures. Dave Hade, who's the chairman and founder of Control Equipment Limited, fantastic story of a guy who originally started as an electrician, apprentice electrician in the ESB, set up his own company in the late 70s, early 80s, and now supplies switchgear throughout the world, has employed over 2,000 people over the course of his company, and again, massive example to us all in terms of experiential routes to professionalism in the engineering area. We also awarded Honorary Fellows to Professor Brian McCrath, who's the president of DCU, a really eminent physicist and sensor engineer, I would say, in his own right. And finally to Professor Susan McKenna Lawler, an absolute star of the space area, originally a professor in NUIM in Maynooth, and then set up her own company, and over the last 35 years has been involved in space exploration missions with 6 different space agencies, from NASA to the European Space Agency, India, Japan, Russia and China. And at 82 flew back from LA, where she was on a short-term visit, to be with us last night, and tells me that she is involved in a mission to Mercury and Venus at the end of the year. So an absolutely incredible woman. They were all so delighted to become Honorary Fellows, and we were so delighted, and everybody here was so delighted that they had come. So a very, very successful initiative. From my own point of view, in terms of lessons learned, one thing I would say that I have learned over the last year from all of the contact I've had is that engineers are very well respected and very well regarded. Sometimes we don't necessarily appreciate that, but in all of my meetings with political leaders, with government departments, with private sector and so on, people are really interested and engaged to understand what the engineering view, what the engineering profession's view is on a whole range of topics. They're engaged in that, they're interested to hear what we have, and in particular they're interested to hear what solutions we have to many of the problems. So it's really important that we continue to develop in that policy space, continue to put forward well thought out policy ideas, because we are being listened to and will continue to be listened to. So that's one message I would have. The second one that I've learned is the importance of saying thank you and well done. Certainly from my point of view, I've received massive support from so many people, and it's really nice when somebody says, you're doing a great job. I think it's really important in turn that I was able to reflect that back to our divisions and societies, to our regions and so on, to understand that we are all volunteers. We're all trying to create additional space from our very busy lives, work lives, family lives, social lives and so on. And the fact that people are willing to do that, especially our active volunteers across council, executive, committees, regions and so on, is really, heartwarming, I have to say. It's fantastic to see and work with people who are as committed to our engineering profession and committed to the citizens of Ireland. So I really enjoyed that. And so my own thanks and well done then, first of all, to the team here in Clyde Road, who are hugely dedicated and consistently dedicated to advancing the goals and duties and vision of this institution. I have to say I've had tremendous and sustained support from all of the members of staff, from Caroline, the Director General, through the senior management team, Damien, Lisa, John, Carissa, Dee and Michelle, and all of the members of staff that I've interacted with. I want to particularly mention a few that I've worked particularly closely with: Ailish, Anne-Marie and Michelle, as I've spoken about before, Richard and Maureen and Shirley, and the Associate Director of Membership. Really fantastic people to work with, and they work so hard on behalf of the engineering profession. I really want to thank everybody here for that. While I'm thanking people, I want to thank my wife and family, Aisling and Brian, Kieran and Owen, who willingly, maybe too willingly, but certainly willingly allowed me the space and time to give as much as I could to this role. And I really appreciate the support and the encouragement and so on that I received consistently throughout the year from the family. It's a big commitment, but they made it easy on me, and I really appreciate that. Thanks, guys. I'm also very appreciative of the huge commitment and support that I got from my council and executive this year. We discussed and debated many issues. We ran on over time, many times in council, but always, I think, because more people wanted to contribute, wanted to have views, wanted to have their views heard. At council, which we meet on a Saturday, people come from all over Ireland, spend not only many hours that day travelling to and from and attending, but preparing for the meetings, reading the documents that have been distributed and so on. And I think the fruits of council and executives' labour are clear in the annual report that you see this year. I think it's been an excellent council and executive, and I've been very privileged to preside over them. Finally then, I want to thank my fellow officers, Peter, who will be incoming, Marguerite, who will be incoming after Peter, and Dermot, who's stepping out at the AGM as an officer after 4 years. And I also want to thank Bill, who was my first president as a junior vice president, and Regina Moran, who was the outgoing president or immediate past president. I've learned so much from all of the officers. The officers are quite a tight-knit group, and the wisdom and the commitment and the hard work and insight that you get from working with these people closely over a number of years is tremendous. So again, I've really, really enjoyed working with all of those people. Finally, Peter, I'd like to congratulate you and your family and friends. You've brought a big troop down from Tyrone today, and it's a fantastic evening for you. I'd also like to congratulate Maurice Buckley, who's incoming as our Vice President. It's a fantastic achievement for both of you to attain the high office that you will. From my point of view, Peter, I can only wish you the very best of good luck in your presidential year, and what I will wish is that you enjoy your year as much as I have enjoyed mine. And so finally, fellow members of Engineers Ireland, it's been a huge honour for me to be your president in the 2017-2018 term. Thank you all for all of the support that you've given me. It's been a most memorable year. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll open it to the floor if there are any corrections or comments or additions that people would like to add to the annual report. No, I've talked you into submission. So in that case, could I seek a proposer for the adoption of the annual report for 2017? John Power and seconder John Coleman. And those in favour of adopting the annual report? Great, thank you very much. We now have the next order of business is the Director General's report. So Caroline, if I could ask you please to present your report to the AG.
Thank you, President. So Kieran has outlined the report of the President for the presidential year, which is from effectively the 1st of June to the 31st of May, and the report that I'm going to give is the calendar year for 2017. So there may be a few differences in some of the numbers that we have spoken about, but that's what accounts for the difference. So what you see in front of you actually is the front cover of the annual report, and that was emailed out to everybody, and copies are available here. And I think it's a fantastically colourful front cover, and I think it really captures the essence that is one of the big things that we do during the year, which is Engineers Week. And I was at that event, and it was Tobin Consulting Engineering, and it was taken out at the new sports campus out in Abbottstown, and it was an opportunity that Tobin's had taken to show students around the facility, and then talk to the students about how engineering was used in all aspects of the development of the Abbottstown campus. So I suppose one of the important things for me to do as Director General is to tie in what we've been spending the money on with the activities of the organisation. So this is going to be a little bit heavy in detail, I have to warn you, but I'm trying to get through it as quickly as possible. So there are 5 things in Engineers Ireland that we focus on, and the reason that we came up with these 5 things was because we did an awful lot of consultation, and we went out and we talked to a lot of our members all around the country, and importantly, the council and the executive board spent a lot of time really getting to grips with, well, what as an organisation are we supposed to be about? And what came back very strongly from the executive board, from the council, from the members, is that we really should have 3 core activities when you look at our mission. So it's about the profile and the status and the reputation of the profession and being expert voice. It's about supporting and growing the membership and encouraging and educating future generations of engineers, and is about ensuring that the standard and competence of members is world class and progressing a CPD policy. And to enable that, we have to have a culture of leadership, and we also have to have financial integrity, and we have to have high performance. So as I mentioned, the council and the executive board spent a lot of time looking at what we would do for the next number of years, 2017 to 2020. And this, I think, is an important slide because it shows the values of the organisation. They're not my values or the staff's values. These are values that reflect the membership. So it's about being progressive. It's about having a focus on community. It's about trustworthiness and excellence. And Kieran had mentioned there about the response that the organisation gets when it goes out and it engages with the political system, for example. And I think you can see that those values come through. And Richard had done a piece of work earlier this year that looked at trust and competence in the profession. And engineers, I don't know if any of you have seen this, and certainly we should disseminate it, but there are the highest trust group of professions are doctors, but the second highest group are engineers. The highest group in terms of professions for trustworthiness are doctors, but the second of competence are doctors, but the second are engineers. So Kieran mentioned there that I think sometimes the profession doesn't maybe take a step back and kind of appreciate this, but this is what members of the public are saying, because that piece of research that Richard undertook was a representative sample of the public, asking them those 2 questions, and I think that's a really important foundation for communication for us. So in terms of a vision, The vision that's been developed is a community of creative professionals delivering solutions for society. And then we have a very clear mission. And the mission is very close to what the foundation of this organization is about. And, you know, when organizations go through periods of change, you find that the ones that stick closest to it, their mission, their core mission, are the ones that survive and adapt. So we've had a very clear roadmap for growth, for relevance and for impact, and I'm going to try and talk through some of the things that have been done this year to realise those three objectives. So, you know, we gave a commitment, as we always do, to the Council and Executive Board at the very beginning of the year, that there are going to be things that we will work on to try and get across the line. So these are some of the things about improved communications with members, and these are all founded on feedback that we've gotten. Supporting our regions, divisions and societies, so essential. Developing policy, growing our membership numbers, getting new students in and making sure that we keep the graduates that we have. Having accreditation, as I said, that's such an important function that we undertake. The CPD aspect and having a really good and accessible online tool. Having training programs that address the needs of the broad base that is Engineers Ireland, strengthening our ethics and disciplinary processes. And, you know, the chair of our ethics and disciplinary board is here, and some of the members of the board are here. And we did a lot of work in 2017 to look at these processes, and it was arduous, and the board really did put a lot of focus and effort on it. But they're a very important aspect of what we do, because it's all about maintaining professional standards. A marketing strategy to support our growth, and to support CPD and our corporate reputation. The STEPS program, as I talked about, making sure that our values are embedded in everything that we do, having really robust governance processes, and we've seen lots of organisations that have suffered because their governance is not strong enough. And in this organisation, a lot of work has been done to enhance the governance, which is very strong and always has been. Sound financial planning and having a capital investment plan. So probably can't really see that very clearly, but I'm going to go through it in more detail. But there's two infographics at the very beginning of our annual report, and I'll, you know, if you do nothing more than just have a look at those, because I think they capture things in a degree of detail. But just to take it down a little bit more and looking at the growth, the relevance and the impact, as Kieran has said, we have a record high number of members. We have 25,119 members as at the end of 2017. It's higher even as we speak. So in terms of retention, a lot of people stay with us, nearly 92%. And when you look at the membership, it's 17,436 members. But we have now got, for the first time, the highest level that we've ever had of student membership, and that's because the membership team went out to try and secure the future of the organisation. And we have a very strong interest in professional titles. We had 420 applications for Chartered Engineer in 2017. Our regional branches, our divisions, our society, absolutely at the heart of everything that we do. Record number of events, 284 with over 13,000 attendees, and that was almost 3,000 more than last year. So, you know, the regions, the divisions and societies really understand what the membership needs are, and translate that into activities at a local level or at a divisional level to support those needs. We have a dedicated team here in Engineers Ireland, Sinead and Maureen, and we have a very active liaison committee that meets a number of times during the year. We've had a sector support fund, and drawdown on that has continued on during the year, and we've had a special focus because we have a region in the north and in Great Britain and in Australia and New Zealand, and what we've noticed is that those regions, they need extra special focus, and we've had a particular fund to address needs in those areas. So 333 free CPD hours generated for the year for the members. So members can fulfill almost all of their CPD requirements just out of the free activities that are provided. And the other piece of work that's being done is to identify if there are people who want to become members of the organisation. Well, then the sector support team looks at potential leads. And one of the priorities that Peter has for his presidency that's absolutely supported by the officers is to look at how we can even more strengthen our regions, our divisions and societies. And I've been actively talking to a number of you about that programme of work, and we would hope to take some proposals to the council and to the executive board next month. So that's just a snapshot of sector events to date, right up to today's date. So you can see that we're trending towards 14,000 attendees at sectoral events. World-class accreditation process, really important for Engineers Ireland and for people who undertake engineering programs at degree level, because ability to be able to work all around the world is kind of based on this accreditation. So we seek Washington Accord accreditation, which gives international mobility to our graduates, and thanks to the very significant amount of work done by our registrar, Damien Owens, we've secured that status for the next 6 years, which is really significant for us. Damien also undertook 6 accreditations covering 22 programs on the NQF framework during the year. Damien is also the Vice President of the International Engineering Alliance and has advised on international accreditations. He's involved in bilateral agreements, and I think that just goes to show the calibre of, obviously, Damien as our registrar, but the reflection that it has on all of the work that is done by all of our committees, BECS, MQB, and the work that's done on professional titles. As I mentioned, we had a Code of Ethics review, and very thankful to the Ethics and Disciplinary Board for the work that was done and the working group that was set up to support that. So another area enabling the engineering community to progress their professional development. So at the very beginning of the year, we launched My CPD, the online tool. And, one of these things, when you put a platform out there, you don't know how it's going to work, but we've had really great support for it. 96% of people who did the pilot of the tool found it easy to implement, and Aidan and Dee have been instrumental in all of this. We've had a huge number of learning events, 220, and over 3,000 delegates have attended those, and we've been trying to make sure that those events take place all around the country, so it's not just focused here. And another big emphasis has been on new programme development, so listening to the needs of members, listening to the corporate partners, and trying to understand what kind of new programmes need to be developed in order to make sure that as an organisation we're being relevant and we're supporting the needs of members. And a new CPD accredited employer standard was developed, and we had a lot of involvement from industry in the development of that standard. And I was involved actually in an audit this morning that was implementing that standard with TII. And you can see how where organisations implement the CPD accredited employer standard, that there's a real and genuine investment in staff in those organisations. So as Kieran had mentioned, we've really ramped up a lot of the work that we've done on the external piece to make sure that we're having impact. So we had Minister Paschal Donoghue came to launch the strategy that I talked about. Minister Dennis Naughton came to launch our annual conference. We had the Taoiseach and Minister for Business, Enterprise and Employment, Francis Fitzgerald, who came to launch the State of Ireland last year. We've had, as Kieran has said, a public affairs campaign with TDs, political advisors, etc. We've done pre-budget submissions. We've appeared before joint committees. I know Cormac Bradley and John Bailey have in the last 12 months appeared before joint committees, not in a negative sense, in a positive sense, to put forward the work of the organisation. And as Kieran had mentioned, advocacy on the national planning framework, a lot of work on the water utility, climate action, BIM, and of course on STEM and critical skills. And just to mention again, we now have a policy unit, we have a policy framework, we've published 9 policy papers, and we've responded to 9 submissions. And I can even see in the first part of this year that the amount of call on us to become involved in activities at a policy level is increasing. Yes, during the week, Richard and former chair John Kane of the Energy and Environment Division appeared before the International Energy Agency, who were doing a review of Ireland, and we were invited to come along to that. So that's a really positive development. So other areas, 70 corporate partners supported in our work. Donal Hanlon, our marketing officer, has really driven forward this piece of work, as he has driven forward the website as well. Very active on social media, which people tell me is important. I know it is important, but 12,000 Twitter followers, a big LinkedIn group, and we have high number of users on our website. And the website, as Kieran had mentioned, is going to be, we're developing a website, but it's more than a website. It's going to be a whole platform for our members to interact with us on. So we'll look forward very much next year to giving you a report on how that's working, and hopefully a lot of you will have had the interaction with that. Our Engineers Journal is an online offering, and it is really well received. It has a very high readership level, 22,000 average monthly readers. And then the Connect newsletter is another thing that we launched earlier in the year, because as I said at the outset, one of the things we wanted to do was communicate more effectively with members. And that Connect newsletter, it's evolving over time, but it's really trying to reflect what's happening, particularly for membership for the members of our organisation. So the last one had a very nice piece on the annual conference, and this one will hopefully have stuff on the annual report and the event we had last night, and record number of entries to the Excellence Awards. So encouraging the future generation, the STEPS program is such a central part of what we do. 92,500 engagements, over 27,000 young people met a voluntary engineer. I mean, I just think that's a phenomenal statistic for any organisation, and it's really so at the heart of what we do. We had workshops for STEPS volunteers, and we invested in our national standard, biggest ever Engineers Week in 2017, and it involved 789 events and 63,000 children, parents and teachers. And Engineering Your Future is a programme that we do with TY. It is absolutely oversubscribed hugely every single year. We do it in conjunction with the colleges, and this year I know Magella has been involved in expanding that out as an in-company piece with ESB, so we're really looking forward to seeing how that will work. So living our values of being progressive, community and trustworthy. We have a CPD standard, we offer CPD, so as a staff cohort we need to make sure that we have a standard to adhere to ourselves. So we were fortunate in retaining the Excellence to People standard, and we did a Gallup Q10 engagement survey. We've had an organisation review. We have a new PMDS system. We have a health, safety and wellbeing programme for the staff. There's been very good financial management of the organisation, led by John and Sylvia, and by the outgoing chair of the Finance Committee, Mert, and now I know John Jordan will take up that mantle. And in terms of internal audit, Brian Cassidy, who's here, is the chair of our internal audit committee. An operations review with process changing, and then we've had prudent, we'd like to say, capital investment decisions, and the website and the refurbishment to the premises we feel benefits our members. So in conclusion, you'll be happy to know, I'd like to pay tribute to the President and to the officers. Kieran, it's been a fantastic year working with you. I think you've done an absolutely tremendous job. The amount of work that you've done for the organisation has just it's hard to describe. A lot of it is hidden, as you know, but it's been a pleasure working with you, and I really feel that the organisation has benefited so hugely from your leadership. The Council and Executive Board, a number of you are here today. It's a pleasure for me and the team to work collaboratively with you, and we really appreciate the advice and guidance that you give us. To the committees and the committee chairs, again, a number of you are here. Thank you very much for all of the work that you do to assist us in our work, and to the volunteers and to the members, all for unwavering commitment to the profession. I have to say thank you to my own executive management team, to the team leaders, the executives, the administration staff of Engineers Ireland. As Kieran has said, they are very dedicated, hard-working, and I really I'd like to say, and I hope that you feel that they show warmth to people coming into the building, and also to the interactions that they have with people on phone or online. It's really one of the things that we want to try and preserve in the organisation, and something that we work hard on. So thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to answer any questions that anybody might have as a result of the presentation.
But I'm more than happy for, even though Caroline has sat down again, for if anybody has any questions in relation to that excellent report by the Director General. Are there any queries or comments or questions? No. Well done, Caroline. Thank you very much. And we move on to the next order of business then, which is the appointment of the Vice President. I'm very pleased to introduce our new Vice President, Maurice Buckley, who's here in the front. Maurice, I'm going to read a brief resume of your career to date to the meeting, and then we'll go ahead with the appointment. So Maurice Buckley comes from an engineering family. His father, Dennis Buckley, was a civil engineer with CIE, and Dennis was also president of the IEI Western region in the 1970s. On graduating with a BE in electrical engineering from UCD, Maurice worked as a design engineer in Inland Motors Ennis. He completed a master's thesis on the topic of magnetic design for brushless servo motors. He later moved with the company to Germany in an applications engineering and product management role, supplying the fast-growing robotics and automation markets there. Maurice then completed an MBA degree in INSEAD in Fontainebleau in France, and then changed roles to become a strategy consultant with the Boston Consulting Group in Munich. So very much testing out your multilingual capabilities, Maurice. In the 1990s, Maurice returned to Ireland with his wife Mary and young family to set up System Label in Roscommon Town, where he still lives today. Supplying technical labels for industry, the company was very successful, and over time built up a local R&D activity in the field of RFID, radio frequency, some ID thing, little, and established a UK subsidiary. And in 2007, then Maurice switched from the private sector to the public sector to take over in his role as Chief Executive of the NSAI, the National Standards Authority of Ireland. NSAI is responsible for the country's standardisation, certification and metrology activities in Europe and internationally, and his work in NSAI brought him into closer contact with the wider engineering community, and indeed into contact with Engineers Ireland. Over 50% of standardisation experts in Ireland and internationally are engineers, which is a great statistic that I hadn't heard before, Maurice. Maurice became Executive Chairman of the Office of Public Works, the OPW, last year. The OPW is leading a very large-scale capital investment programme into improving Ireland's flood risk management. Over 100 civil engineering projects are planned across all of Ireland's river catchment areas. The OPW is also responsible for an estate of over 2,000 public buildings, including offices, Garda stations, public offices and cultural institutions. And these are all being progressively upgraded to current best practice building standards, with a particular emphasis on improved energy efficiency in the context of Ireland's climate change management. The OPW has been associated with Engineers Ireland and the Institution of Engineers of Ireland from the very beginning. The first president of the then Civil Engineers Society of Ireland was Sir John Fox Burgoyne, who was also the first chairman of the OPW when both organisations were established in 1835. The modern OPW is constituted as a state body which is part of the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. As chairman of the OPW, Maurice is a serving member of the Civil Service Management Board and the Government Secretary-General grouping. Maurice became a chartered engineer in 2010 and a fellow of the institution by presidential invitation in 2017. I'm now going to call on Maurice to come to the stage and present you with the Vice Presidential Medallion. Maurice, congratulations. Or a medallion at least. And again, this was, I'll put it on to you first. Very good, if I can.
Okay, good.
So if you'd like to say a few words, Maurice, the floor is yours.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Kieran. Well, it's I won't say much tonight, but just really to thank everybody, to Kieran and all those involved in the nomination. I'm very honoured. I'm feeling the weight of responsibility this evening, but I can assure you all that I will do my very best to serve Engineers Ireland, and particularly the members of Engineers Ireland, because it is a member organisation, to the very best of my abilities, and look forward to working with all of you and with the other officers, with Peter and the team over the next year and number of years. Thank you very, very much.
And and equally well, Maurice, I look forward to working with you as one of the officers in my final year as an officer. So our next order of business then is the result of the ballot for a new council member. I'm going to invite our Vice President Marguerite Sayers to present the results of the council election and declare the member elected to council for the 3-year term from now until 2020-2021. Marguerite, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President. So, as President has just said, there's just one vacancy for the 2018-2019 session of Council, but I think you got a real sense of the level of vibrancy within the organisation from the 2 reports, the annual report and from Kieran's report earlier on. But further evidence of that, if you need it, is the number of people who put their names forward as willing to serve on Council. So there's just one vacancy, like I said, but there were 14 people that put their names forward, and therefore under the bylaws there had to be an election. So the scrutineers for the results of the election were Richard Manton, who's a policy officer here in Engineers Ireland that you've met already, and also Dermot Byrne, our past president. And a scrutineers report will be available to anybody who requests it from today on, if anybody does want to get that. So I suppose, again, just in terms of level of interest, in the past, I suppose there's been quite a number of interest in votes, again, through the online voting. This time round, for the 14 people that sought to be elected, there were twice as many votes as we saw last year for the 11 candidates. So the level of interest is going up all the time, which is really good as well. So without further ado, I suppose just in terms of the results, the person who won the election for the next vacancy in Council is Catherine Sheridan, and I want to congratulate Catherine and to say that we look very much forward to working with her on Council over the next year. So Catherine's here with us as well, so congratulations, Catherine. And just finally, there's likely to be far more vacancies next year for this. So for the people who weren't successful today, if you're willing to, I suppose, consider putting your name forward in future, there will be further opportunities to do that, certainly next year when we'll have more vacancies.
Thank you very much. I believe there are 8 vacancies on Council next year, so we go from one extreme to the other. And again, as Marguerite has said, I very much encourage any of the people who put their names forward, as well as others, to come forward. I think it's a great sign of the organisation and the health in the organisation to have so many people who are willing to stand. My last item in terms of presiding over the AGM is the inauguration of the President for the 2018-2019 term. And I'm absolutely delighted to be able to introduce Peter Quinn, who's going to be our President for 2018-2019. An absolutely fantastic guy, as so many of you know, from the Northern region, huge involvement in Engineers Ireland, huge involvement throughout the organisation for very many years, and really looking forward, Peter, to your term. I'll read a brief resume of your career. Peter Quinn is a Chartered Engineer and a Fellow of Engineers Ireland. Peter was awarded a BSc degree in Civil Engineering from Queen's University Belfast in 1977 and graduated with a Master's degree from Queen's University in 1985. He is a UR-Eng, Chartered Member of the Institute of Civil Engineers and a member of the Chartered Institution of Highways and Transportation. Peter commenced his professional career in Belfast, where he worked as a site engineer on heavy marine construction at Clocken Point Jetty on White Abbey Shore Road and on urban motorway construction on the Belfast West Link. From 1980 to 1982, Peter managed the earthworks and bridge construction teams on a road project in northern Nigeria. On return to Ireland in 1982, he joined Monaghan County Council, where he worked on water, housing and national roads projects as designer, resident engineer and project manager until 2000. Through part-time study, Peter graduated from QUB in 85 with an MSc and was awarded the title Chartered Engineer in the same year. Yes, we've covered that. He was admitted as a Fellow of Engineers Ireland in 2007. And for the past 18 years, Peter has been a director of PG Quinn Limited, a civil and structural engineering consultancy in County Tyrone. Peter and his wife Anne have 3 sons, John, an IT software engineer who has recently returned home to Ireland after 8 years in Sydney, Australia, and has taken up employment in Galway very recently with Valio. David and Aidan, Peter and Anne's other sons, are both structural engineers on the Earthquake Recovery Programme in Christchurch, New Zealand. Peter is at pains to point out that he's an enthusiastic Tyrone football supporter and enjoys a game of golf, and indeed I think was captain in Dungannon Golf Club only a couple of years ago. So Peter, I'm absolutely delighted to be the person who presents you with the chain of office, and I invite you to come forward to receive the chain of office. Nobody will know. Nobody will know. Thank you, Kieran. I also want to present you with your President's pin to wear with pride in the coming years.
I will. Thank you so much.
And very best wishes and best of luck to you.
Thank you, Kieran. Thank you. Lovely. Distinguished guests, fellow members of the institution, excuse me, family, Hade, ladies and gentlemen, I begin by thanking you all sincerely for your presence here this evening. Here in Clyde Road, the headquarters of our institution. Since the founding of the Institution of Engineers of Ireland in 1835, I believe I am the 126th president and the first to hail from among the green bushes of sweet Tyrone. This fact, amongst many others, makes it a momentous distinction and a singular pleasure to accept the presidency of the institution. This year, for the first time, the number of our members exceeded 25,000. And to each one, a particular thank you for conferring on me the honour of being your president. It's an honour for me and my family, my community, for my native heath and parish of Clonoe, and for all our people by the shores of Lough Neagh. Like both my parents and all my siblings, my formal education started in Kings Island Primary School. It was then a 2-mile walk from my rural home, but light years away from the wonderful place of learning it is today. My mother loved English and poetry, and my father always said, a good education is easily carried. He had returned from America in the Great Depression of the early 30s. He appreciated the heights of the challenges that lay ahead for us, and he encouraged us to study. Somehow, they funded my entry to the Academy, or St Patrick's Academy Dungannon, and I revelled in the opportunities it presented, and I relished the education I received in the Acadoo. Fast forward to the present day, and I find myself on the Board of Governors of the Academy and project sponsor on the construction of a new £28 million school, due to open in September. I am acutely aware of the privileged life that I've been gifted with, and I welcome the opportunity to put a little back into my community and my old alma mater. The seeds of my good fortune over the past 50 years were sown in those hallowed halls. Amongst many other lessons imparted in the Academy was the importance of service to others. And I pledge myself here and now to exert my utmost to be of service to the Institution of Engineers of Ireland and to each of its members, and to promote its best interests during my term as president. My first real introduction to civil engineering was perfectly timed and very persuasive. Prime Minister Terence O'Neill, his vision of a modern Northern Ireland in the 1960s manifested itself in the creation of the new city of Craigavon. And in the summer of '72, I was employed by Public Works as a chainman, setting out the earthworks for the twin attenuation lakes in Craigavon. the storm runoff from the new cityscape, it posed a threat to the flooding on the River Bann. And the balancing lakes, as they were known, they provide an amenity space and a storm holding facility. And those summer days on an earthworks site, amid the big drag box scrapers and the supersized excavators, confirmed for me my opinion that I should go to Queen's to study civil engineering there. So I graduated from Queen's in 1977 with a bachelor's degree. But Kieran, no Sigerson medal. I have since thoroughly enjoyed my working life over the past 41 years. I started working immediately with Charles Brandon Son, a renowned heavy civil engineering company based in East Belfast. My first appointment was to Cloughan Point Jetty and the Berthen Dolphins in deep waters off the Antrim coast. These were the mooring stations for oil tankers to supply Kilroot Power Station, then on to marine works and urban motorway construction in Belfast, the motorway and the works in Belfast followed. And as the troubles in Belfast in the late 70s intensified, Anne and I decided it was time to get the passports out. So a 2-year assignment then to Nigeria in the early 80s with J.V. Duffy from Shankill, County Dublin here, brought my privileged life into sharp contrast with the environment into which I was rapidly immersed. We constructed roads, bridges, installed water and electricity supplies, and travelled extensively across the northern states. I worked with peoples of all nationalities and enjoyed the wonderful experience that country presented. Those experiences in Nigeria left a lifelong impression on me, and I am forever grateful to those wonderful people I encountered. I am acutely aware of that the remotest areas of drought-ravaged Africa are now barely a day's journey away. We engineers are capable of effecting so much change, and the need for our positive interventions now is absolutely enormous. On returning to Ireland, an 18-year appointment to Monaghan County Council engaged me in the construction of roads, housing, water supply and wastewater treatment facilities. Daily interaction with the people of the Farney County in challenging times left me with an abiding appreciation for their work ethic and their resourcefulness. Together, we built roads and bridges and installed water supplies and wastewater treatment plants. Improving financial times in the 1990s saw me move to project manager roles on national roads and water treatment plants for group water schemes. The mutual respect shared between the technical and administrative staff and the generosity of the people of Patrick Kavanagh's famed county gives me frequent cause to return there and enjoy their company. In my year as President, I plan to extend that outreach to all local authority engineers across the country, and I am confident of the mutual benefits that will flow from that engagement. It was during those years in Monaghan that I first engaged with Engineers Ireland, or the Institution of Engineers of Ireland as we were then known. And with Con and Damien, Liam and their wives, year after year, Anne and I, we danced our way through the regional functions in Virginia and on to the National Ball in Dublin. We became familiar with the great stalwarts of the institution, P.J. Rudden, Finbar Callanan, Donald Blair, and many others. And I'm sure it was those relationships that years later gave me the confidence I needed when I presented the Clyde Road to represent the Northern region. It was also during my time with Monaghan County Council that I went back to Queen's University to tidy up on some unfinished business. And in 1985, I became a chartered engineer. Being a chartered engineer for the past 33 years has been extremely important to me. At one level, it's the gold standard of our professional achievement. But much more importantly, that credential has given me authority to exercise good influence across a range of work and social-related issues, whether in school boards of governors, my local parish committees, or in the courtroom. My chartered status has been accepted as a badge of integrity. So for the past 18 years I have served the people of Tyrone and further afield through PG Quinn Limited, consultant engineers. But more important than any financial benefit, it has been rewarding in allowing me to engage with my community and permitting me to put my experiences and engineering expertise at the disposal of those who share with me the ethic of community building. The institution and my charter status facilitate my deep-seated desire to serve the community where I live and work. But it's that same willingness to serve, fostered in my childhood home and in the Academy in Dungannon, that brings engineers from all over the country as an Ulster to the committees of our regions, our sectors and divisions. I applaud and salute every one of our members for their voluntary work on which the institution so depends for it to function effectively. The institution gives to them, as to you, a vehicle through which we make an impact on society. And it's not what the institution does for them, but it's what membership of the institution allows them to do that is so crucial to our mission and our objectives. To my fellow members in the Northern region, I am aware of the unique competition to which you're exposed from our fellow institutions in the various engineering disciplines. And facing that head on year after year, the committee and members have made enormous efforts to grow our membership and present an inspiring programme of events. And to each and all of you, I thank you on behalf of the institution. I've had the pleasure of chairing the liaison committee meetings for the past couple of years. And from my past experiences, I appreciate the efforts of the delegates. I was always well supported by Maureen and Sinead. During my term as president, I plan to visit the regions to do and better understand the issues that are most important to them and how they may be assisted. My long association with the Northern region saw me as chairman in 2011 hosting a most successful national conference in Belfast. The opportunity this presented for many members to explore the city wasn't lost, and the Titanic Quarter experience and the City Hall dinner event were truly memorable. That success was due to teamwork and collaboration between the staff here at Clyde Road and the Regional Committee. And that work continues now, year on year, and I thank the organising committees, the staff and the volunteers for the effort and enthusiasm they placed in the conference. And likewise, one other notable aspect of the institution's activities, where the voluntary contribution of our members is exceptional, is in the interview process for the Chartered Engineer qualification. As an interviewer over many years, I hail and I thank all my fellow interviewers at home and abroad, and the membership team here at Clyde Road for facilitating that vital process. In that regard, Shirley and Debbie have been superb ambassadors for the institution. On behalf of all of us, I want to express deep gratitude to them and to their team for what you have done over the years. The poor quality of infrastructure in Ireland has been identified as the most problematic factor for doing business here in this country. Project Ireland 2040 proposes a strategy backed by an investment of €116 billion to guide development and investment over the next 20 years. By 2040, for the first time since the Great Hunger and since the formation of Engineers Ireland, the population on this island is predicted to reach 8 million. And planning for that extra 1.5 million people, their homes, their places of work, and the infrastructure required to support this growth, whilst at the same time ensuring environmental quality, poses many challenges. Contrast those objectives with the fact that since 2011, the numbers of building and civil engineering graduates in Ireland continues to fall year on year, 45% over the last 5 years. We in Engineers Ireland believe that the expertise gathered from our 25,000 strong membership base across every discipline will be vital to the planning and delivery of strategic Ireland infrastructure. Engineers Ireland recognises our responsibilities and the enormity of the task we face in this regard. Not for the first time can it be said, the harvest is great, but the labourers are few. It's a time of great challenge, and it's also a time of great opportunity. It's also an exciting time and a great time to be an engineer. My engagement with Clyde Road down the years has brought me into contact and created opportunity for lifelong friendships with many of you here present. I am deeply grateful for your friendship and acknowledge the support given to me by all the staff, by fellow officers, members on council, executive and the finance committee. I thank the Director General, Caroline, for her efforts on behalf of the institution and for her support always readily given. I want to recognise and record the support of the past Director General, John Power, not just to me personally, but also to the Northern region. To the directors, Carissa, Lisa, Michelle, Dee, Damien, Shirley and John, and to our policy officer, Richard, I look forward to continue to work with you for the institution during my term. When I recall all of those whom I have met and with whom I have had the privilege of working, the words of William Butler Yeats come to mind. Think where man's glory most begins and ends, and say, my glory was that I had such friends. To my predecessors, Bill Grimson and Dermot Byrne, friends now, more than ever before, I will need your support, good counsel. To my friend and immediate past President Kieran, 1,000 thanks to you, to Aisling and to your family for your ongoing and enormous contributions down the years to this institution. To my successors in line, Marguerite and Morris, I pass on the warning. Time flies. And throughout my life, my career choices almost inevitably have had impacts on and implications for those closest to me. Firstly, I thank my parents for the sacrifices they made in funding and encouraging my education. Even before the daily trek to the primary school in Kings Island, that spirit of generosity, their values and priorities were instilled in me, exhorting me to achieve my best, not just for myself, but for the betterment of all. Truly, I got my most important education at my parents' knee. Their principles are shared with my family, and I thank my brothers and sisters for their support along life's highway. To my wife Anne, and our 3 sons, John, David and Aidan, I apologise for the hours and the separation that work and career have forced upon us over the years. I am immensely proud of every one of you, and I thank you for your constant encouragement. To Lisa, my first daughter-in-law, and to Jadina and Cara, I'm afraid my sons have inherited their father's love of engineering and travel, so you two are well warned. And I particularly want to thank David and Jadina for travelling all the way from New Zealand to be here on this very special occasion for me and for all of us. Again, I thank all the members for the accolade of being the 126th President of Engineers Ireland. Reverting back to Yeats's quotation, you are where our glory most begins and ends, and my glory is in your friendship. Whatever adventures we may have in the time to come, I am sure that I shall never forget the emotions of this evening, nor be able to properly express my gratitude to you, colleagues and companions, for this supreme honour. Go raibh míle maith agah go léir, agus bear bannach. one final thing. On behalf of all the members of the institution, I want to thank our past president, Kieran Feighan, for his guidance, his inspiration and hard work always, but particularly over his term as president. And it's my very pleasant duty this evening, on behalf of the members, and as a memento of his year in office, to present Kieran with a bound copy of the annual report 2017. And there's also a copy of the famous picture of the key men. So Kieran, thank you.
Thank you very much, President. I'll take that.
And just in recognition that there's a formal proceedings ongoing this evening, I have to ask, before, just as I draw the evening to a close, is there any other business? And taking the silence as it being complete. So I now invite you all to join with me and enjoy the reception at Cafe Clyde. Thank you very much. Oh. And it's my very pleasant and final duty to present this bouquet of flowers to Aisling for being a brilliant supporter of Engineers Ireland all of this year, and for all the work you've helped Kieran through. Super, thank you. Okay, with that, we'll draw the matters to a close, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Cafe Clyde. Thank you.